UMICA is an international congress which has now many years of age. I started participating in MICA in 1998, if I recall correctly. And it is a congress which has been growing through the years. Originally, it was a smaller thing than a congress, but with time, it grew. When I was the president of the society, one of the versions had more than 400 uh, articles sent for consideration. And in that sense, Mikai started to publish the proceedings in three different versions, one which was for Springer, another one was for IEEE, and another one was for a magazine which was published by the Instituto Politécnico Nacional. By doing that, we wanted to make it more inclusive because it came to a point where the conditions which Springer imposed on the publications that we accepted made it very difficult for some people to publish. So we thought that it was a good idea to open a second line of possible publications in IEEE and then a third line of possible publication in this review of this magazine by the Politécnico Nacional. So that's Mikai, that's the way I've participated on it. Like I say, when I started working for the society, when I started as secretary, then I became vice president, and then I was the president. And the submissions in the first year were 80, and 3 years later we see more than 400. So that gives you an idea of the importance that Mikai had in the community. And it has been like that ever since. We have tried to keep it high quality Congress, which is why many of the not so very well expressed papers are rejected. But the idea is to make it a very high quality Congress. And plus the invited speakers, which were 6, usually 3 from Mexico and 3 foreigners, were of the highest class, and that has been going on as far as I can remember, and it still goes on for Mikai in the latest versions. Well, like I said, one of the most rewarding experiences that I had when I was leading Mikai was to be able to involve a lot of people which typically didn't think of Mexican congresses as serious congresses. That changed with time. As a matter of fact, there were lots of foreign authors. There was a time when there were more than 50 countries represented among the people who sent their contributions, their possible contributions to Mikai. So one of the things that gives me great satisfaction is to have been able to make this Congress, and people consider it a world level Congress. And the other thing is that since we invited very noted speakers, as a matter of fact, the founder of artificial intelligence, Dr. McCarthy, was invited, and he came to one of the Mikais, which was held in Monterrey. And also, the now chief of the artificial intelligence department in Carnegie Mellon was also here. There were lots of very important figures for the community which were able to attend our Congress. And one of the things that I also think that was achieved by Mikai is that we were able to make these people get closer to the people which attended this Congress. Most of the people, or the majority of the people who attended the Congress, were Mexicans, but there was a time where more than 50% of the attendees were foreigners. So it was a way to establish the initiation of working groups. So these two things are the ones that I think that I've been enjoy the most through the years with Mikai. Well, congresses are a very particular way of meeting in the world of computer science and associated disciplines. Typically, congresses are designed to congregate people. That's why they are called congresses. In that sense, the quality of the papers comes to a secondary importance. It's not so important to write a very good paper as it is to meet the people. Mikai has achieved both things. There was a time when the Sistema Nacional de Investigadores considered these publications where lots of people would publish in Mikai because it was such a high quality congress. But of course, since we were able to make some very noted people, personalities, to come to Mexico, this was one thing that particularly for the students became a very important issue, because they were able to know firsthand many of the people who they read. There's an author, I remember he's an author of a book on neural networks, a comprehensive foundation on neural networks. And this professor has received over 30,000 citations for this book. And he came to one of the congresses, as McCarthy came to one of the congresses. There's too many people. I wouldn't like to enumerate them all, because I would spend most of the interviews enumerating all these people, but it has been a very satisfying experience to note that these people are interested in being in Mikai. They are sometimes surprised by the excellence, the level of excellence that some of the Mexican researchers display during the conferences, so that there's a two-way interaction, a two-way influence which arises from these meetings. First of all, for the Mexicans who are not able to go to places such as Singapore or India, they meet the researchers which are from Singapore or India or Europe, and we bring them for them. The other part of the idea is that sometimes the researchers in Mexico are not very well known even in Mexico, and by inviting them, we make it possible for people to meet these researchers, or even find out that these researchers do exist and work in Mexico. There was a Mexican who was the head of design in General Electric in New York, and he was Mexican, born in Querétaro. And people, of course, not of course, but most of the people didn't know. So this bringing the people into the Congress makes a tete-a-tete meeting something very rewarding for both of the parties involved. I think that the basic learning for the students is to really find out how the papers which are presented during the conference and which are then printed in the different magazines that I already told you about. Typically, the student doesn't know what it takes for a student to really do serious research. Mikai allows them to do this. When I organize these congresses, I used to gather a couple of students per researcher which was invited to Mexico. So they would pick him up from the airplane and then take them to their hotels, etc. And it was very interesting for them to interact with these people. And in that sense, they were able to question them and ask them whether they would be able to be working in some of these universities from which our invited guests were invited from. And one of the lessons that people who attend Mikai will inevitably get is what it takes, what level of expertise and sweat you need to spend in order to be able to publish a world-level quality paper. So I think that's the most important thing, plus the fact that you are able to interact personally and directly with the researchers and with your own colleagues. The computer science community in Mexico has grown a lot, and there are lots of, when Mikai started, there were very few institutions which offered doctorate programs in Mexico. Now there are many universities which offer these doctorate programs. And it's very interesting for these young doctorates to be able to interact with all the people who attend Mikai. So I think that's one of the nice things about Mikai. You are able to measure yourself. Uh, I was against all these people who come from all parts of the world, including our own Mexico. Certainly, I would like to invite all the international community to come to MICAI. MICAI is a first-class World Congress, and the papers which are published there are only accepted if the quality of the papers is very high. So if you are able to publish in MICAI, you can be sure that you have done something interesting for the international community. Plus, you will be able to be present in this beautiful country, which, regardless of what some people say, keeps on being filled with very warm and welcoming people. So I urge you to come to Mikai. It will be a very good experience for whoever decides to come here and is able to publish particularly. But you can come even if you don't publish. Mexico is a beautiful country.